This is Baruch Fleischman here. I'm at the Tikkun Elevator Kollel, and you can see that we're here at Jewish Astrology and Cosmic Science, written by Rabbi Yaakov Kronenberg. Now, in order to understand the piece that he's talking about right now, it's not that easy for me to understand. I'm trying to find some basis to be able to understand it. The universe, as we understand it from a Jewish sense, can be divided into the spheros. This is one way of looking at it. It's a series of concentric circles. It's not the only way to look at the universe, but it is a way to look at the universe. Here we have the first circle, counting this way, because he's going to count it a certain way. The first circle is called Malchus, which also represents the earth. So that's the bottom of the circle. That's called 1. Then you count Yesod, Hod, and so on and so forth. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the 8th circle, which is Bina, is called the place of the fixed stars. So the next one is called Chochmah. It's the concept of the daily wheel. Higher above them is going to be the 10th Sphira, which is Kether, is the wheel of higher insight. At any rate, today we're not dealing with that. What we're doing is dealing with these two, Chochmah and Bina. According to Kabbalah, Chochmah and Bina are always together. They ride together. Chochmah feeds Bina. Chochmah is the male attribute, and Bina is his female. Those are the female attributes. So these are two different patterns of the universe, how the light of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu flows towards us down here at the bottom in Earth. Now, let's go over here and try to figure out what it is like that Rabbi Yaakov Kronenberg is saying. So he says like this: we've been trying to understand. There are two systems of understanding the zodiac, which means the constellations that are above our head that are constantly moving. Now you see that let's just go back to this other drawing over here for a second. I get an idea that these are circles, but they're also cycles. Okay, because the concept of cycle is circular as well. Thing goes around, comes back, goes around, and comes back. So these are little bits that I can try to understand, that these are different cycles, one inside the next, ultimately leading to our world. Now let's go over here and let's talk about the two models. He says the models of the universe are either the Sidereal system or the tropical system. Where these names came from, I'm just taking it on the basis of what Rabbi Yaakov is telling me, and those are the two systems. I'm a student. So he says, I would like to quote two Torah books that deal with this subject. One book is called Sefer HaTechuna, written by Reb Chaim Vital. Reb Chaim Vital is the famous scribe of the Uriah Kodesh. And the second is a sefer called Migdalos, written by Rabbi Yavitz. That's called the Yavitz. In Judaism, there is a problem. So he says there's a problem in our way of thinking. If you go according to this sidereal zodiac, which is what they do in the Hindu zodiac, because Pesach has to fall in the springtime, and it must fall in the month of Nisan. Now we said the last time as we were listening to this and trying to go through it, that according to the sidereal system, the planets move every 72 years. So that means that there is, over the course of 1,000 years, several degrees. They move 1 degree every 72 years. So according to the course of 1,000 years, you have quite a few 72s in there. So there's going to be movement, which means that the planets are aligned differently than they would be in the tropical system, which keeps everything in the same place. Now he says, and if you take the movement of the stars into account, he said he was talking about Pesach has to fall in the spring. I think in the last couple of years it moved out of the springtime. So what happens is as a result, it keeps moving, and the relationship between the beginning planet, so that is in the zodiac, which is in this case, he hasn't talked about it yet, is the constellation called Aries. So Aries are going to move because the planets, they move themselves. That is, the planets and the stars that represent, he really means the stars that represent Aries. So Rabbi Chaim Vital deals with this in Sefer HaTechuna, and he mentions that the world was created the eighth and the ninth Galgalim, which corresponds to Chochmah and Bina, were exactly parallel to each other. They were in perfect sync. In other words, they were in union, or what we call in Kabbalah, in a yichud. They were one. The starting point of each one was 0 degrees Aries. So now he's telling us something that he hasn't really introduced, and that is that the first sign of the zodiac, of the stars, that is the constellation up above, is Aries. And they were exactly at 0 Aries. In other words, right at the beginning. And then every 30 degrees, and then it went 30 degrees more, there was a new constellation, which was Taurus. And then 30 degrees more was Gemini, until there were 360 degrees sphere. So in other words, the ball of the zodiac is a ball. It's a circle, 360 degrees. So that is how it was engraved in the ninth Galgal sphere. And that is why it was impossible to see what was in the ninth house. So he says it was possible to see in the ninth house because it was projected in the lower eighth Galgal, which was incorporated into the ninth. Now that takes explanation. The rule is that although that Chochmah and Bina, he's saying here, are exactly equal, both at 0 degrees Aries, he said the fact is that Bina is Chochmah is inside of Bina, comes first. So therefore, you always see that the ninth house is going to, which is Chochmah, is going to have Bina associated with it, but it's going to be a recipient of Chochmah. So it was possible to see that was in the ninth house because it was projected in the lower, which is the eighth house, which Bina is manifest into this world. And as a result of that, it can be seen, unless its manifestations can be seen, which was incorporated into the ninth. So he says the eighth is a part of the ninth because that's the way it is. They're always together. So these two Galgalim spheros initially were together in the distant past. And with time, they slowly separated, and are no longer in sync. Now, we Jews go according to the ninth, the Galgal sphere, which is called the Galgal Ayomi. Now, I don't have enough definition for this Galgal Ayomi, and I'm hoping I'm going to find out as we go along and we read and start to study, try to learn more about Jewish astrology. So the Galgal Ayomi, which apparently is a ball or a circle, which is moving around, is called Chochmah. But it's one in every 24 hours, apparently, which doesn't move except for completing its daily cycles or circles. And therefore, we use the chart of Adam and Eve. Now, he hasn't given us the chart of Adam and Eve yet. He's just saying this. Adam and Eve is the first chart. The first part of the chart of Adam and Eve is going to be Aries. And I guess Eve is going to be Tishrei, which is Libra. And this Galgal sphere is exactly where it originally was when it was first created. The other people go according to the eighth Galgal, where the fixed stars move. So, in other words, he says like this: we, as Jews, we go according to the ninth Galgal, which is Chochmah, because Chochmah is inside, meaning that it's Panimi, it's came first. It's the energy that really manifests in Bina. So we go by the energy instead of the manifestation. If it's the manifestation, then it's going to move every 72 years. So this ninth Galgal sphere is exactly where it originally was when it was first created. So never move. It's the Bina that moves, because let me see something that he wrote over here. He says Bina represents the fixed stars. That means the constellations of the zodiac itself. That's where the light of Chochmah is manifest. So he said, but we just stay with the light of Chochmah. Let me see, I'll lose my place. So he says, I said the chart of Adam and Eve, and this ninth Gilgal is exactly where it originally was when it was first created, and the other people go according to the eighth Gilgal, where the fixed stars move, which is the firmament of Bina, and this is known today as the Sidereal system, which is the system of the Hindu. A rabbi known as the Rabbis says that during the flood, now here's a different explanation. These two Gilgalim, the spheres, the eighth and the ninth, were at the same degree of alignment. So he changes the time, and he says that this is the time of the flood. And from that time on, they were separated by a degree each 72 years. But then they changed because they were separated. And again, he emphasized that the ninth Galgal, which is the one that we need to use, which is the Galgal of Chokhmah, because everything begins with Chokhmah, is fixed and remains fixed to its original state and energy, and doesn't move at all except for its daily encirclement. That's its cycle. This is an important idea because I see and hear a lot of people talking about it, saying this is right and the others are wrong. But in fact, each doctrine can be explained logically. So Torah astrology works according to the tropical zodiac because the ninth wheel is higher, and therefore it encompasses the eighth wheel. This is Baruch Fleischman. That's Jewish astrology, trying to learn it little by little.